Okay, this is day 88, and I looked at a year ago's version, and I wouldn't really change much. Nothing's changed much from a year ago, just more sources and citations. What has changed is the compromise of this group's network communications. And I'll explain what I mean by that. But quickly, the KKNR connection here with Petraeus, we just saw a meeting yesterday, the secure meeting at US PACOM in Diamond Head, I believe, in the skiff there. The reason is all the communication networks have been compromised. First the Gmail, then the Blackberries, then the Iridium. Neil Brown, I still believe, is doing all the mining and oil recommendations and the geopolitical recommendations. Braverman is still the key leaker in March. They go and they get Cooper and the server from Braverman's leak. That's kicks off the 650,000 emails with Huma, and that kicks off the chief of police saying, hey, it's all about pay to play. I still think that the key person for gun running is General Grange out of Norfolk. The Stingers and other weapons coming, the old weapons from the old battlefields, coming through South Carolina still, I believe, under the cover of uranium. The sarin gas with Michael Morrell in Syria and other parts in the world still. And Hillary obviously still at the center of the conspiracy. None of that's changed. I'll go back a year and show how this methodology has really worked out very well.
You know, I put information together and storyboard it together and look for patterns. I just had a long conversation with Cy Hirsch, and you know, great, obviously print journalist and so forth, and he basically said, look, I rely on inside sources. I don't do this, put external sources together and try to connect the dots. He said, you're more like a Peter Dale Scott. And I said, oh, that's funny. I put Peter Dale Scott on the first slide the first day, and he's been on ever since. So, you know, we have to bring in these folks like Cy Hirsch who have these contacts inside the CIA and FBI.
And it's amazing how without Cy Hirsch and his contacts, how far we've gone. I still think cruises is the key cover for any of the human trafficking, although I've stayed away from it. I still think there's a virus vaccine component to this in Haiti with Bill Swing and in Africa. I still think the microsharking is done with the phones, the Digicel phones. I still think USAID is a key way of funding and training these people to grow opium and so forth. And even on the organ stuff, I backed off a little bit on the organ harvesting, but I have still stuck by the organ recovery and these organ recovery networks and encouraging ambulance drivers to go to Georgetown and encouraging them to go to MedStar locations in these major cities. So it's amazing how little has changed other than the compromise of these networks. And through this process, really, where we've talked about the Blackberries, we've talked about Iridium now, they're running out of options other than meeting personally in Hawaii at a SCIF location. The other two NSA locations would be Denver now and also Texas, since Fort Gordon in Georgia has been compromised, and also the location in Fort Meade in Maryland has been compromised. So I'll quickly go back to Valerie Plame and how important I think uranium is as a base for cover of all this illegal and illicit trade. If you remember, she did the thing in Niger. She was read her book, The Fair Game. She talked about all the rat lines in Africa and the yellow cake in Niger. Of course, that's going to be close to Zambia, which is, I think, the base of operations in Africa for Mark Lambert and Krupnik. And I believe that a lot of the weapons and storage for uranium was with Saddam Hussein, that then gets moved to Canada. It doesn't get moved to the United States. So if you look, it's going to go to Cameco in Canada, and here it is. This is the article that talks about it. And most people don't remember 550 tons moving, I think it was 110, something like that, containers, 37 flights on C-17s, etc. Here it is, 550 metric tons. It goes to Canada. Why does it go to Canada? Well, because I believe those are resources for the future. Does Hillary know Pierre Trudeau? Yeah, I think she does. But more importantly, she knows Bouchard. Bouchard is the key guy who, if you don't remember, ran the NATO bombing campaign for Libya and has been a key partner of Hillary's at NORAD and so forth. And there again, you're going to get this advice about the highest and best technical advice about satellites for this geospatial chat awareness application if you're going to run rat lines. That's just the bottom line. You're going to know the most advanced, and if you even recall, I said Valerie Plame compromised Bouchard early on when he was in Germany, going back to even 2001, maybe even before that, with Tyler Drumheller. If you don't remember Barrick Gold, Cameco, we just mentioned, Cameco is going to have ties to Blind River, that processing facility, that uranium spinning facility, which is going to be used quite a bit until they start using the Kentucky facility here in the U.S. for Uranium One U.S. operations. But Barrick Gold's tied to George Bush, tied to Monk, the British industrialist, tied to Canada. It gets started in Canada in 1983. Is Barrick Gold, was that named after Barry Freitag's son when his son was born 36 years ago? I don't know. That's probably not right. But, or is it currently named after the current Barry Freitag? I don't know. But we do know Michael Brown, I believe, who's the president of Barrick USA. And I had said in the last episode, it's going to be Nevada, it's going to be Utah. And if you don't know Mr. Brown, he's the head of this Nevada Mining Association, as well as the National Mining Association. Okay, and then you've got these cutouts, of course, to accept bribes. But we're going to continue to follow Barrick Gold. And here it is. This is the 1.3 million acres that Trump gave back to private industry or private interests. This was where they were going to do more mining here in the 1.3 million. Because you can do robotic mining now, you can take these wildlife refuges and keep them for private interests. The same thing with this 300,000 acres near Las Vegas. Where is Barrick Gold? Well, we've been there all along. It's at 101 Constitution. There's the Capitol. Here's 101 Constitution. There's where I met that Navy guy that night who was the key intelligence officer in Iraq, the guy whose dog was dying. And 675 right there up at the top, that's where Barrick Gold is. Okay, you remember Adnan Khashoggi was also involved with Barrick Gold. He was the key weapons dealer. So it's weapons and also involved in Iran-Contra. So how this isn't Iran-Contra, I don't know. How much more evidence needs to be piled up. But the other piece is, if you just turn here a little bit, there's the labor building where we're going to do our EEO filings to make sure that we get our people inserted in key positions in government like USCIS. And there is federal court, right there, federal court, 333 Constitution. So you've been around it the whole time. Now, what did I mean about compromising the Iridium? Well, you could use the Iridium network that was based from the military, the NATO military Iridium satellite phones, but then there's also this private phone network that's been put up by SpaceX. But now, if NSA knows that that's how the conspirators are communicating, this becomes valueless. Now, this was supposed to go off yesterday. This is the heavy rocket that SpaceX has. They want money to go to send this mission to Mars, and basically it's just a cover for them developing their private Iridium network. So they're trying to get the American people to develop their network. But no matter what, if we want to pay for their maritime data awareness program so that they can track ships and planes all over the world, well, that's going to be a different discussion. But the Iridium network, as far as their phone communications, has now been compromised. And why did I say you wanted to compromise somebody in USCIS? Well, here is Pavel Krupnik. Now, if you remember him, he's related to, obviously, Roman Krupnik and the Zambia operation, as well as operations in Australia and Canada, and in, I believe, with Cameco in Wyoming. But you're also going to have Pavel coming into the United States in 2006, I believe, and getting his citizenship here in 2007, applying for it. But he, coming in as an immigrant from Russia, really through Iran, spending a lot of time in Iran, he's going to run U.S. Enrichment Corps. U.S. Enrichment Corps has got the exclusive rights to all U.S. uranium production in Uranium One. Kind of sketchy. And also this was held up by USCIS. Well, not anymore, because you put Maz, M-A-Z, Mazhar Awan, ends up going to USCIS and running the foreign desk at USCIS. Speed up those applications a little bit. I'm going to just throw this name out here for right now. I'm going to just talk about Greenhill and this company called GHL. Greenhill, if you don't remember them, are the ones that got the Vero Pharmaceuticals around the Russian sanctions. This is the Joe Rago case for Wall Street Journal that dies. This Greenhill that gets Vero Pharmaceuticals, the Russian pharmaceuticals, the purchase through that cutout. And GHL is going to be an acquisition company that's going to buy a lot of shipping companies, I believe. So, moving along a little bit quicker now, this is the, if you remember, Barrick Gold, also Adnan Khashoggi with Iran Contra. Well, he's going to be involved, at least one of his companies is going to be involved in Iran Contra. After the Iran deal closes and everybody cashes in and everybody buys new houses, like all the Strokes, then they're going to buy up all the heavy water. Why is that? Well, they're going to put heavy water, remember, allows you to use a lower grade uranium to get the same amount of energy, right? So they're going to buy up that heavy water. Well, isn't this just like buying up the yellow cake and sending it to Canada? Is this going to go to Canada as well? So we're buying the heavy water. I wonder if that means we're going to plan on using it. Anyway, finally, I'll talk about Jeff Sessions and the potential pay-to-play in Alabama with these littoral ships, and I also believe fuel rods are going to be in Mobile, Alabama. Here's the company called Austal that makes these mobile littoral ships. This means close to the shore. The key thing about these ships, though, is the small amount of crew you can have and still have a helicopter. These are great for covert operations, like the CIA likes to do. And from this angle, you can see it a little bit better. That you can see how the ship's been slimmed down as much as possible to get into these small spaces, but still have that all-important helicopter crew for the folks that you've got on your dog teams for operations like Libya, operations like Syria, Yemen, countless other operations, Honduras, Venezuela coming up soon, and the like.